Hey guys, Chelsea here from Making Manzanita. Today we are going to teach you how to make these beautiful macrame feathers. I promise that even if you have zero macrame experience, you should be able to follow along with this simple beginner-friendly tutorial. All right, so I used 5mm macrame cording. That's just what they had in stock at my local craft store. You're welcome to use something smaller if you have that on hand, like a 2 or 3mm would also work well. But you want to start by cutting the centerpiece for the feather. So I made several different sizes of feathers. So this is just kind of a medium-sized one here that I'm demonstrating for this video. So I would say that this one is probably close to about 20, maybe 30 inches long for this centerpiece. And then you want to fold it in half. And then do a knot at the top, just a simple overhand knot as shown. And then you want to lay that piece nice and flat on your work surface. I'm working on a table in our house, and like you can see, I have a scrap piece of cardboard down, and that's just so I have a nice flat surface. Later on, you're going to be like scratching it to unravel the cords, so you want to make sure you have it on a surface that you're not worrying about getting scratched, which is why I'm using cardboard. All right, so next you want to cut the pieces for the side of the macrame feathers. And there's a few different ways you can do this, but you want to cut a bunch of pieces all at the same length. So what I'm doing here is just I measured how much I wanted for the sides, and then I kind of figured out what that length was, and then I just kind of wrap the cording around so they're all roughly about the same length, and then I'm cutting at the edges with my scissors. Another way to do this is to wrap the macrame around an object, like you could use a notebook or a book if it's roughly about the same size, and you can just wrap it really quickly and then cut it along the edges. For these medium feathers, I bet that piece is about 10 inches long, just as a rough estimate. All right. Here is where we knot all the pieces onto this centerpiece, and I'm going really slow here so you can see it, but I promise it's really easy once you get the hang of it. All right, so you're going to take one piece of cording from the pile, fold it in half, and put it underneath the center cord positioned horizontally. Next, you take the loose ends of that piece and put them through a folded second piece, which is coming in from the back side, and then take the ends of that second piece and put them through the folded ends of the first piece, coming down from the front side, and then lay both pieces flat and gently pull the pieces, pulling outwards from the ends. And then you're going to repeat this process, this time starting from the opposite direction. So put your first piece in going the opposite direction, then take your second piece, grab the ends, pull it up through your fold of the second piece, then put the ends down through that first piece, make sure it's nice and flat, and then pull outwards gently. You want to be sure that center piece doesn't twist as you're moving along as you build the feather, so just kind of keep that flat as you go. And then you can just repeat this process. It will take some time. Once you get used to it, I bet after 1 or 2 times, you'll get the simple process, and you'll be able to do this pretty quickly without thinking. If you lose track of which side you started on, because again, you're supposed to be alternating, remember that that little piece in the middle that's coming up is the bottom piece. So you can see there, so my piece that's coming up is on the left, so on this time I pushed that first piece under going the right. So that's how you can kind of keep track of where you're at, but it's really pretty simple once you get the hang of it. If you want to get technical here, which you totally don't, this type of macrame knot that you are using is called a square knot. But again, you can see that after 1 or 2 tries, you'll definitely have the hang of it. You don't even need to know all these macrame terms. You can do this without any experience using macrame. All right, so you just continue this process, alternating back and forth, tightening and pushing them up until you get to the end of the feather. But be careful that you don't go down too far, because you do need to leave enough cord at the center to tie a knot and be able to unravel it and have it be about the same length of your surrounding pieces once they come down. So that piece on the bottom, that center cord that I'm knotting up right there, is going to be the bottom point of my feather. So I want to be sure I have enough length on the bottom of that to be the bottom tip of the feather. So for the knot on the bottom there, it was just a simple overhand knot, just like I did at the top of the feather. So no fancy knots here. All right, so now I'm going to start unraveling, and this part is very, very tedious. It took a lot longer than I thought it was, and I tried a few different methods. Here I am using the method that I ended up deciding was best, which is just a plastic comb. This is just literally one from my bathroom. No special comb here, just a hair comb. And I am using this starting from the bottom tips of the feathers and then working my way up towards the middle. I much preferred the comb method. I also tried a wire pet hairbrush, which I had seen some people use in some other tutorials, and I really didn't like that method. I felt like it required a lot more effort on my behalf. And I felt like the comb just, I needed to press a little harder and I could do it a little slower with less effort. So feel free to try the different methods and see what works best for you. But again, I really enjoyed the plastic comb method. So you can see there that I have that scrap piece of cardboard as my base, so I don't have to worry about anything getting scratched. And then just like when you're detangling hair, you always want to start at the bottom, the tip of the feather piece, and then work your way up towards the middle. This will just help it get less tangled. A warning here, this part is very time consuming, so feel free to take that work surface and your feather to the couch and turn on a good movie while you do this, because it can get pretty tedious. All right, next you want to lay the piece flat and brush out with a comb again, and just make sure all the pieces are kind of angled the right direction. Brush them downwards to your desired angle, and then grab some super, super sharp scissors and start rounding out your feather shape. Be sure not to cut off too much. Remember that you can always go back in and cut more if it doesn't look right, but you can't go backwards if you cut too much. You can decide if you want your macrame feathers to be skinny or fatter. It's totally up to you, whatever shape you prefer. So I'm using a couple different types of scissors here. I was using Tim Holtz, the tonic scissors. Those are the ones with the red handle to cut through the bulk of, you can see there, I just switched to them, to cut through the bulk of the macrame when I was cutting it for the kind of the first time. And then I went back in with my smaller like fabric shears, the tiny detail ones, and got all the tiny pieces, and that seemed to work well. All right, so next you want to stiffen the feather pieces so that they lay flat. So to do this, I used this fabric stiffener, and I applied it to the front and back of the feathers and let it dry in between coats. I think I did about 2 or 3 coats of the fabric stiffening spray. And it worked, but it didn't work perfectly. Let me explain. All right, so I was using the fabric stiffener to try to work with these feathers, and I hung them up on this stick I'm using, and it just wasn't enough. You can even see here, just like, it's just not stiff enough. It's probably because the cord I was using is so thick. So anyway, I decided to go with the felt method that I had mentioned in the beginning that I may need to resort to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the feathers on these pieces of felt and then cut them out and then glue them on the back to just give them a little more stability while they hang. So they hang nice and flat. Now, I think one of the reasons why the fabric stiffener didn't work quite well enough for my feathers is because they're pretty thick. Again, remember I'm using 5mm cording here. So if you're using thinner cording, your feathers won't be as thick, and this fabric stiffener may work a little better for you. Adding the felt sheets wasn't that hard. You can see here I'm having to kind of piece together some of them for the bigger pieces, but the smaller ones I was able to cut off from one regular size piece of felt. I am using DAP Rapid Fuse spray adhesive here, and you definitely want to wear gloves for this part and do it outside because it can get kind of messy. You just want to spray the glue on the back of the felt sheet and then press it into place, and of course wait for them to dry before you bring them inside. So to hang them up on the wall, I am using a piece of driftwood that we had on hand. You're welcome to use a dowel or something else to hang them up, but it is perfect here. I have it above her bed. It's a great place to put it. That's always kind of a tricky place to decorate in your house, above a bed. I actually have a full blog post all about different ways to decorate above your bed if you're struggling with that. But I absolutely love how the feathers turned out. This was such a fun project to work on. It was super time consuming and very tedious, but I love how they turned out. You can see they're laying nice and flat after I added the felt to the back sides of the macrame feathers. And I love for this project, it's minimal investment. The macrame cording was the only thing I needed to buy, and that spray stiffener. But it was low budget and low experience because I didn't have any macrame experience going into this. And I know you don't need to have experience either. They're super easy to make. Although they're not quick, you need to bring your patience along. You're going to need it. They are easy. So if you guys make these, be sure to let me know. And then if you have any questions about the process or the supplies, feel free to ask in the comments below. And then while you're here, we would love it if you would subscribe to our channel. We share weekly DIY and renovating videos. Sometimes they're crafts like this, and sometimes they're more renovating tutorials. But subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a project, and then watch this video next. And we'll see you back here next week, same time, same place.